Once upon a time, when the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis dominated the games industry, a video game system called the 3DO was invented. The 3DO's hardware vastly outperformed its competitors, it had a decent library, and it leaned hard into PC-quality full-motion video games as its video technology was light years ahead of the Sega CD. It also cost more than both its competitors combined, so almost nobody had one! The 3DO wanted to shake up the gaming landscape, and they did it by making licenses absurdly cheap so that pretty much anybody could develop for the console. They thought that it would lure boatloads of third-party publishers to give the system a massive library. Instead, it made the console a haven for shovelware and amateur porn games. That's like subscribing to a YouTube channel because they made a good episode on the Suicide Squad game, and then the next episode is a shovelware amateur porn game. And on this obscure platform rose one legendary turd nearly lost to time, and that turd was called Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is a romantic comedy interactive movie where you try to get a plumber named John together with a valley girl Jane while saving her from an evil boss that wants Jane for himself. That sounds like it could be a reasonably interesting game. Too bad it's been lost on a console that nobody owns. Until today, because as of March 5th, 2024, Limited Run Games has remastered Plumbers Don't Wear Ties for a re-release on modern systems. The funny thing is, I pre-ordered a physical copy of this game for the Switch and got it like a month ago, but then I started working on Suicide Squad and didn't get to it until it was widely available anyway. Whoops. This is said to be one of the worst video games ever made, and to get through it, I'm going to need a delightful and refreshing cerveza cristal. Cerveza cristal. My crystal doesn't taste like ass wipe. Before you start the game proper, you're asked to watch an introduction by the remaster's developers. It's pretty much the dev team joking around about, oh god, why did you pick this game of all things to remaster? And then saying that it's for the memes and the preservation of gaming history. That should only take about 30 seconds to lay out, but this cutscene goes on for 6 minutes with them repeating the same point about game preservation over and over and over again. I don't mean to be a dick here, but I'm gonna. There was another long-lost FMV game that was recently remastered to modern consoles called American Hero. It was a lot more work to restore since the game wasn't finished when it was canceled. They had to track down the original script, record new voiceover, upscale the footage, and edit around parts of the game that were never filmed. And American Hero's devs didn't feel the need to include a video patting themselves on the back for 6 minutes!
Crystal's looking good today.
Blasphemy! Crystal always looks good! Hey, Sherlock. Finally it ends and the actual game begins.
And whisper sweet things in my ear, and I promise to do whatever your little heart desires.
This is starting out super creepy. She talks directly to the player like you're about to go on a date and then bang her.
Now if you make the right moves, I end up with this schlep. That is, I end up with you. And as the hero's reward, guess what? You get to take me home and have your own degenerate little way with me.
And then she just starts babbling nonsense.
Fire chief visited. He wrote up a new code and made me wear a smoke alarm between my thighs. And in the Coast Guard complained that I was creating tsunamis in my waterbed.
What the hell are you saying? Jane lays out the premise of the game. She's going to meet a guy named John, and it's the player's job to make sure they end up together. And right about the time you start thinking, wait, that sounds awful, suddenly she's in her underwear.
Because I don't do one-night stands, I don't date musicians.
And I don't care! And this game that's trying to sell itself as a dating sim zooms in on the lead actress's boobs. This guy went on to make Super Seducer, didn't he? Finally, we're through both introductions, and we get to a title screen that looks like it was doodled in 5 seconds using, well, what's beneath Microsoft Paint? Because Microsoft Paint is badass. The opening credits play over a series of still images of race cars with inverted colors so that everything is eye-rape to look at. I would guess the colors are inverted to keep this racing series from suing the crap out of the game's developers, except one of the images friggin' spells out where the images came from anyway. Dumbass! And then they start photoshopping a panda in a go-kart in the middle of the racers, and you start to wonder if you're playing ADHD the video game. Wait a minute. computer programming by John Crane. That's the true identity of Batman villain the Scarecrow. This game really was built for psychological torture. Whoa, I gotta stop eating Taco Bell before bed. Makes me dream of opening credits. This is our lead character, John, who's woken up from his dumb Mr. Negative NASCAR slideshow dream by a telephone as his mom calls. And no, the game isn't frozen. No, the video didn't render incorrectly. This interactive movie is made entirely of still shots! Fuck! I've reviewed quite a few FMV games on this channel. Erica, I Saw Black Clouds, The Bunker, The Quiet Man. All terrible games made up of cutscenes, but at least they had motion! Plumbers Don't Wear Ties has the same format of being built entirely out of cutscenes, but the cutscenes are all a series of still slides with no manner of animation or transitions whatsoever. I don't know why the limited run devs were so pleased with themselves porting to modern consoles a game that runs in Microsoft PowerPoint! I've seen the slideshow nature of the game blamed on the power of computers at the time, except this came out in 1993. Multiple big FMV games like Night Trap, Seventh Guest, Dracula Unleashed, and Star Wars Rebel Assault came out the same year, and they moved! I think this game just didn't have the budget to film with anything but a Polaroid! Anyway, John is woken up by a phone call from his nagging mother.
I said, get up, John. John, if you don't pick up this phone, I'll be in your face in 5 minutes.
That ship has sailed, lady! John's mom wants to know why he's not married yet, even though he's dating— White woman jump scare! Can this game go 5 minutes without disturbing me to my core? This sequence goes on for— sorry. If I don't keep twiddling the thumbsticks during these boring-ass overlong cutscenes, my Switch tries to go to sleep. This sequence is so long and dull that I'm just fixated and bothered by how John has a perfectly waxed torso and biceps, but hairy-ass legs and forearms. What kind of psychopath grooms that way? Finally, the call ends, and we cut over to our other lead, Jane, who proceeds to have the exact same conversation with her father.
Why the hell aren't you married yet, Jane? In that last scene, that bitch of a mother told her son to have kids. Now I'm telling you, I want some too.
Fun fact, Jane's dad is played by the game's writer and director, who's probably drinking Drano because he's realized the abomination that he's unleashing onto the world.
Now damn it, Jane, you get on the stick and make some babies for your poor old father.
Alright, the phone calls are finally done, and— Jane, you harlot! You have a cat, but you were dreaming about dogs when your dad called! Then they make us watch John and Jane shower. I think, because there's no water or suds or anything. And despite a big self-satisfied warning about nudity, all we get is a little Jane side boob, and the rest is censored. It's worth noting that all three main actors only appeared in this dreck as a favor because they were friends with the writer-director. That's some favor to let him film you naked in the shower! They're cheering because the scene is over. Oh, god damn it. Now we have to watch their morning routines. John works out, Jane tries on clothes, and the player starts mashing the controller looking for a skip button. And then you have to watch them drive to work while the game digs out the butt-fugly filters again. I think the game itself is trying to die. You have to sit on ass watching this crap for 18 minutes before the first gameplay option pops up. Whack it up to 24 minutes by the time you add the stupid limited run developer forward. Am I watching a freaking Neil Breen movie? Get on with it! John and Jane eventually meet up in a parking lot. John looks like he's never seen boobs before in his life. Jane looks like she is smelling a fart. Truly, this is love at first sight. You know, not to be a stickler, but the genre is called full motion video games! But before we get to the first actual interactivity in this video game, a man in a Joker suit gets on screen to explain how menus work because the game thinks you're too dumb to put on pants.
I'm about to turn this story over to you. Your assignment, should you accept it, is to get these two lovebirds together. Go ahead, make their day, and your choice.
Alright, the first option of the video adventure game. Does John make the first move? Does Jane make the first move? Or do neither make the first move? The stakes are so high, I might shit. Let's have John make the first move.
Wait, what are you doing later? For lunch? Can I buy you lunch? How about dinner? A weekend in Paris?
Yeah, I think we're starting to solve the mystery of why John is still single. Cloying desperation is not a strong look. I know, I've tried. Jane has to leave for her interview, and John decides to wait by her car until she gets back. You know, like a stalker. Jane goes in to interview for... I don't even know what job, they never say, and I'm honestly surprised I care. With her prospective boss, this guy Thresher. Apparently her job mysteriously got canceled an hour ago, so Jane borrows John's move of cloying desperation.
I'll start in the mailroom. I'll empty trash. Can I clean up offices? I'll even make coffee. I can work my way up the organization. I just need someone to give me a chance.
Here you have a choice. Either Jane gets the job, Jane doesn't get the job, or the boss takes advantage of the situation. Well, I know from the Nerds episode what happens if he takes advantage, so let's give her the job.
I've been wanting a personal secretary for some time. Of course, it's a full-time job. You'd have to quit college.
Wait, Jane's in college? So Jane's dad is obsessively trying to get her pregnant while she's still in school. Hey Jane, there a lot of banjo music where you grew up by chance? And then Jane marches back out of the parking lot and knees John in the junk because now that she's got a job, she's too good for him. So even if you get them together by game's end, apparently their relationship is contingent on Jane being unemployed. I'm starting to think that this is the good ending where John dodges the biggest bullet of his life. But of course, if you pick an option that ends the game early, you basically get a game over and the option to redo the last choice.
Uh-oh, I screw up. Could you give me another run?
And no matter where you are in the game, they only ever show the first option in the preview. They were so lazy, they recycled the game over screen. Honestly, the only legitimately funny part in the game to me is if you have Thresher refuse to offer Jane a job because he loses his friggin' mind and has a full-blown meltdown rant about how much he hates women and the working class.
All of you applicants are acting. You're acting like you don't know where your next meal is going to come from. I hate people looking for work. You're all filthy slime. You're part of that seething, oozing mass of unemployment.
I don't know what this guy does, but he's got a strong future as a Republican senator. But John just up and leaves if you pick this path because otherwise the game would be over and I would be happy.
You screwed up, but hey, it wouldn't be the first time you screwed up a relationship, right?
Oh yeah, because it's always the guy's fault if a relationship dies, not the girl that you've been dating for over a year refusing to take a single weekend train ride to meet your parents. Apparently, if you have diabetes, then travel of any kind is pure suicide, even though she just got back from a month in Canada. Yeah, just to spoil it early, there is a single interaction where your choice is meaningless, and past that, there's only one choice in every interaction that actually advances the story. Everything else gives you a game over as the narrator yells at you. And when you pick the option where the boss tries to exploit Jane for sex, the narrator yells at you anyway.
Now see how your sick curiosity led Jane into this mess?
I tried to avoid it 2 different times! You asshole! Thresher offers Jane the job if she strips for him. For reasons I don't want to know, this makes Jane flash back to her childhood.
I remember when I was just a little girl and I got lost in the park and I felt so alone.
Take your damn clothes off!
So now the choice is yours. Does Jane accept the offer or turn him down? Even though it looks like the preview images are swapped because she's half naked in the turn him down option. I know I'm gonna get a game over, but let's try the accept option. Hachi mama! Jane pulls a whip and handcuffs out of her shapely ass and goes full dominatrix! What the hell kind of favor did she owe the director to agree to this?
Deep down inside, you're just a confused little boy, aren't you? Now take your clothes off, you filthy little boy!
This dialogue is way too vivid for the writer to have never paid for this kind of service before. But of course, this gets you another game over, so... What in the name of... Why is the narrator wearing a chicken mask? Why in God's name is he wearing a chicken mask? And why does it look exactly like the giant chicken from Family Guy? I was not expecting an Ernie origin story today.
She was such an innocent girl before you started screwing around with this story.
Innocent? She brought handcuffs and a whip to a job interview! You are so full of shit! Again, I have to go back and pick the right option where Jane turns him down.
Read my lips.
I can't! They're not moving! So, the pictures are so bungled that I can't even tell what happens, but Jane gets away and Thresher grabs a letter opener to chase her like he's Michael Myers. And either there are 0 other people in the office, or Thresher chasing a half-naked screaming woman with a knife is just a Tuesday around here. Of course, they end up in the parking lot where Jane's shirt just teleports back onto her body, and then John goes to intervene. And believe me, if you think the game's been batshit random up until now, what happens next is the most inexplicable part of the whole thing. Some random karate bitch jumps out of nowhere in the meta story and starts fighting the narrator so that she can take over captaining this crap ship. Dude, you're off the hook. Just let her have it.
Finally got rid of that obnoxious character. And that horrible music.
Spoiler warning, the game keeps reusing the same music, so our new narrator is equally full of shit as the last one.
Name's Selma. Wanted in 30 states for hijacking fiction. Let's review the story up to this point.
Okay. This all blows. I'm out of here.
I don't believe it. How could you make such choices? Were you raised in a barn?
Okay, listen, bitch. The game literally handcuffs you to making one and only one set of choices to have the game continue. Don't blame me for this travesty. Take it up with the writer-director. He's lying unconscious at your feet. No, seriously, that's the writer and director. Here's him getting punched on screen. You're welcome. Okay, you can choose to have them all run away, or you can have John try and distract Thresher. If you pick the distraction, it turns out that both John and Thresher are gay, and they run off together. What the... Okay. As long as they're both happy, I guess. Of course, that's one of the bad endings. Okay, let's have John and Jane flee from Thresher. I see that Jane's shirt has vanished again. This kicks off a punishing, abusively long chase sequence as John, Jane, and Thresher run through various landmarks throughout LA. They go to a concert hall. They go to, I think, the Hollywood Walk of Fame. They go to the Griffith Observatory. That's how I can tell this was really filmed in LA, because I can Google the Griffith Observatory! Every now and then they'll remember that Thresher is supposed to be trying to kill them and pose accordingly, but mostly it looks like you're flipping through a weird-ass photo album of a family vacation. And again, I have to ask, what the hell kind of favor did this actress owe the director to run through all of Los Angeles topless? Oh, thank God the music is stopping. The montage must finally be over.
Help me, help! Run, Jane, run!
Jane's got the stamina of a damn Olympian if she's still running away from this guy. This montage goes on for 4 freaking minutes before they finally get to some kind of construction site where the leads bungle around lost and you can't tell who's where or what's happening. If Scooby-Doo and his friends ran through these paths reenacting their hallway bit, it'd be the most sensical thing to happen all game. Eventually, there's some kind of a fight, and John has subdued Thresher.
You're going to jail for what you did to me.
What'd he do to you?
He wanted me to strip for him to get a job.
You're disgusting.
I love how they want to call the cops because he tried to get her to strip for a job, and not because he chased them all over LA with a knife. No cops on the streets of Los Angeles, huh? Thresher offers Jane $5 million to spend the night with him, but before you can decide what Jane does, we have to check in with that damn narrator again.
In the name of women throughout the world, I demand this story be stopped right now.
I demand the same in the name of people. Then the first narrator shows back up and shoots the karate lady to death because apparently he just wants this dreck that badly, and also he's kinda misogynist.
Men have been beaten, kicked, slugged, and spat on throughout this sorry tale. I'm telling you, I've had it with these uppity women.
And then he gets to tell us how much we suck for doing what the game forces you to do.
Now let me see how you screwed up this time. I hate to imagine what your love life is like.
Alright, you choose if Jane becomes a prostitute or not, and I'm going with not because I want this damn thing to end. Even the narrator wants this shit over with. He's pointing the gun at his own head!
I love you. I loved you the moment we met.
So for about the last 10 minutes then.
I don't want you for a night. I want you for a lifetime. I've been searching for you.
Freudian slip?
Oh, for God's sake. They left in a flubbed line. I don't know what's worse, the fact that they left in a botched take with the crew laughing at it, or that I just now realized the crew hasn't laughed at anything else. Eventually, John talks Jane into going off with him. Thresher winds up with some random middle-aged lady who just walked onto the set out of nowhere, and John and Jane go back to that parking lot where they met. I bet that was a really long walk. And hey, they found her shirt again.
If you didn't like the first choice, choose the second one.
Yes, that is exactly how these games work. You stupid bitch. John and Jane finally kiss, like two fish trying to swallow each other.
John, I want to know everything about you. Where you live, what kind of work you do.
His job is written on his bike 2 feet away. You stupid bitch. And then they ride off on John's bike into the sunset. You realize we'll have to go back for your car, you stupid bitch! Once the game's over, the remaster shows you a map of all the possible choices, lets you jump to anywhere in the game, and marks the scenes that you missed. But it's literally presented as just a wall of anonymous numbers that don't make any sense. You couldn't slap down a preview image or some text, anything to make this comprehensible? I only missed 2 major scenes. If you have John and Jane postpone their meeting, it makes both of them reimagine their meeting happening with alternate versions of themselves that show up for no rhyme or reason until the game kicks you back. We just went into the Plumberverse. Plumbers on Infinite Earths! It goes so painfully long that I'm actually grateful to see the narrator step in and end it. And the something different ending has Jane becoming a nun. You'd think that would make for a funny gag, only they wring it out so torturously long with word vomit, slow walking to the flattest version of the most obvious punchline, they botched up the softest ball to ever softball. There, now you're spared having to check out this game for curiosity like my dumb ass did. The game does have extras in the form of deleted scenes, which are just still frames that were ostensibly left out of the game, even though they look identical to the finished product. If you replay the game, you can skip through any sequences that you've already seen, unless you start the game over. Then you're stuck there until you've dredged through everything a second time. At any point during the game, you can switch to remastered graphics as Limited Run upscaled the original photos, except the 3DO's graphics were so solid in the first place that honestly, it's not that big of an improvement, and the bonus features reveal that they used AI for the upscaling, which just makes the whole thing feel even more gross than the game did already. You can pick what background fills the widescreen edges, except loads of scenes don't use a full screen aspect ratio, and those still have black edges that look like butt because Limited Run couldn't be bothered to crop them out. They tracked down the original script, in case you want to read all this bullshit after having already watched it. But the bulk of the game is set aside for interviews with the dev team, an interview with James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, for his part in bringing the game to people's attention, and interviews and sketches with Jane's actress Jean Basson, the only member of the cast that they could get back for this thing. True story, she's a professional wrestler, and she was for years before this game was made. To unlock these extras, you need to play through the game to get plumber bucks, but you don't just unlock them in a menu. You need to play a game mode called Plumb the Depths, where you walk through a 3D maze wallpaper clicking on screens to unlock them. The whole time you play this, Thresher is stalking you, but you can pick up plungers to shoot him off. So it's almost like they added a mode that's an actual game. Only the map is tiny and the plungers are limited, so after a few minutes it becomes impossible to survive, and so far as I know, there aren't any additional levels or hidden objectives. It's just a tiny arena you wander around until you quickly get bored. It's like, they could have actually made something out of this, but they punked out and called it a day. It's those kind of choices that make this remaster feel lazy. Like they figured meme value was the only selling point that this thing needs. They even removed content from the original because there used to be a cheat code to decensor the shower scene, and visual effects were removed when Karate Bitch gets gunned down. I know it's dumb to say this about Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, but I feel like so much more could have been done with this. Big friggin' surprise, going out of my way to pick up one of the worst games ever made really sucked! Plumbers Don't Wear Ties is one of the all-time champions of bad games. Even setting aside the lack of budget so grievous that the game's a damn slideshow, it's torturously slow, not even remotely interesting, painfully badly scripted, and since not a single one of the jokes actually lands, it all just plays as ungodly stupid and cringy. And yet, for a guy who loves tracking down bad movies from Miami Connection to Amazing Bulk to Food Fight, it barely even has any cheap bad movie night laughs going for it. But now at least you can finally buy a part of gaming history. And kick yourself for the rest of time for actually doing it.
Jobs are for those who are worthy. Jobs are precious and few. As you just discovered, perhaps this will be a lesson for you, young lady. Perhaps you'll take your next job seriously if you can get another job. You pea-brained preppy, you vain Volvo-driving vulva. Have you ever thought of the employer's point of view? Huh? The guy...